just this week, I have had several conversations with professionals that are assisting seniors in getting into the right situation, whether that means moving on to a senior housing situation, aging in place, moving in with family, whatever that looks like. And today I wanted to just bring you guys a ton of information on the options and the reality of what it is going to look like or may look like when people my age get older, but also people my age are helping their parents and aunts and uncles make that next step. And real estate is a huge piece of that. So that's what we're going to get into today. So stay tuned. What's up, guys? I am Jeremy Kane with eXp Realty, living in the Denver suburbs YouTube channel. Today, I am talking all about seniors and senior homeowners to really dive into the options they have, the realities of what I've seen, boots on the ground. I'm helping some seniors. Actually, this year I've helped 2 seniors already that have moved into more senior housing, and they have houses to sell. And that's a really good opportunity for those people. And luckily, both of the clients that I've had have been able to afford that transition without selling their house before, so it wasn't a major hurry. But we need to understand all of the things that go into this. And as a real estate professional, I want to make sure that you, whether you are a senior looking to make moves or, are starting to think maybe your house isn't best for you at this stage of life, or you are a younger person, a child of somebody who's aging and you want to help them out. So wanted to put this out there to reach out to everybody and go from there. So let's get into this. So there's really 3 types of situations that are most common. And when I say these out loud, they're pretty obvious. Either you have the senior homeowner who's been in the home for a long time, maybe raised their kids there, and own the home outright, meaning there is no mortgage on the property. They just have the taxes. So they're fairly comfortable, low payments, low monthly, costs and yearly costs with the taxes and insurance and so on. So then after that group, you have this group of people that have owned their homes for 10, 15, maybe 20 years and have a really small mortgage. However, if the home doesn't fit their needs anymore, they feel like, okay, well, I can move into maybe a smaller house, lateral move, or maybe even a step up, which we're going to talk about as well. And then the third is definitely those seniors that have higher balances on their mortgage. Maybe they, moved into something, only put 20% down or didn't, own a home before. Still has some options, but they're a lot more limited, when it comes to buying and selling real estate. As always, please reach out if you know somebody or you are maybe somebody who's going to be in charge of this and helping make those decisions. Please reach out. I'm actually creating a Calendly link below that's just for, this senior living situation that I would love to help you out with, connect you to the resources. So definitely book that call. If you or somebody is kind of in this stage of life where they're thinking about what their options are, I would love to talk about their unique situation or your unique situation and dive in and get you the resources that you need to make the right decision. And so after we have that, then we kind of have 3 options, right? And all 3 of these options are truly available to most of the people that fit into those 3 categories. So first and foremost is aging in place. This is becoming more popular. There's a lot of home health opportunities and things that are going on. So people are staying in their homes a lot longer. And this is awesome. If it's a possibility, this is something that absolutely is, the priority. As a real estate agent, if you're able to stay in that home, you own it outright, you're comfortable in the payments, or you have a really low mortgage and that low interest rate, let's do that. The key word is that you're comfortable in that home. And let's talk about that. So aging in place, sometimes, we can have a conversation and there's an interior designer I can connect you with, or somebody that can make that home exactly what you need it to be for hopefully the remainder of your life. And so you can literally stay there, age in place. The next option is really we need to look at, okay, what is it about this house? Maybe, you got lucky and back when you were in your 50s or 60s, you bought that, single floor ranch home, or you're able to still run a mile so you can run up the stairs. Either way, this is a super important piece of the puzzle to understand, okay, what's this look like? And what's it look like if this happens or that happens? And the biggest thing with aging in place is we just need to have kind of a backup plan in the event we, fall or hurt ourselves and we have to go into a rehab facility. This is when a lot of the decisions are made for us as seniors and not on our own terms. And this is where it gets difficult. However, if you're aging in place and you have the right, safeguards as far as maybe long-term care insurance through your life insurance provider, or you have a backup plan, this is something that if aging in place is your thing, you're gonna, you're good in your house, you don't have any issues, or you're gonna modify it to make it so you can age in place longer. Have this backup plan, have the conversations, have the cards in place so that you're able to make that decision and it's not as devastating as I can only imagine it would be if somebody tells you that you can't live on your own or in that house anymore, which is the reality as we grow older and all the modern technology and things like that. We may be faced with this reality more, and so just have that thought process, have a plan. Ultimately, the very worst thing we could do is have all of our money, except for our minimal monthly expenses coming in with the fixed income, in our home. Because if something happens, an emergency or something like that happens, we need to have access to some funds so that you can get going and move on. Because there's nothing worse than being told you can't live somewhere and then not being able to prepare your house for sale or whatever that looks like. And that's where we come in. We have a ton of resources. I actually have a senior package where I pay for staging and cleaning and move out cleans and all of that. And so that's great, but a lot of people, myself included, would want to be a part of that, cleanup process and getting it ready. So we just want to make sure that you do have access in the event you need it for emergencies, whether that's opening a HELOC that you're not going to touch until you need it or something along those lines. Just have liquid funds, because a lot of this, and the reality of this is a lot of our savings right now is built up in our home equity. I would be willing to bet that the largest, wealth in America right now is in our homes, in our equity. And maybe that's because it's not liquid and we can't just go spend it like our credit cards and our savings account balances. But as we kind of progress here, aging in place, we've kind of talked about that. Now let's talk about selling and relocating, right? You may be able to sell, especially if you're in that, hopefully if you own your home outright, you're able to find something, that would work for you, either level or maybe a little less so you can pay in cash and go from there. That's not always the case, depending on what your needs are in the next home. Do you want it newer? Do you want the open floor plan? Do you want, all of this? Certainly we can find a home that's cheaper than most people's, family homes, the larger homes, the 2-story homes, whatever that is. And certainly we can usually find an option, but sometimes it's not going to the same grocery store and using that. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, we need to step back and talk about, okay, where can we go, right? We can find a home that suits all your needs, has all your must-haves, lets you, continue to live independently and do that. But sometimes it might not be in the same exact city or town, right? For instance, I was talking to my neighbor and she was talking about looking in a town, that's a city, I guess, that's about 15 minutes southwest of here. And she was looking at, main floor living, all of that. And the houses that she would move into were about, $800,000. Her home's worth about $700,000 and she owes about $150,000 on it. So she had that gap. And so that specific location that maybe was a little more desirable, maybe was a little newer house, maybe had some things that, didn't include stairs like her house here across the street from me. And that's where it kind of got difficult. And so she's like, we're just going to stay here and fix it up and so on. So then we had the conversation about, okay, what's that look like? What improvements do you need to make? And so on. And I actually referred her right before I jumped on this call, a, contractor that can help her out with, fixing up a bathroom, because that was what was on her mind. That was top of mind. So the reality is these situations are happening more and more and more. And it doesn't matter to me if you sell, buy, do anything, stay in your house. I just want to make sure that you have the resources you need to make those decisions, and that we can hopefully eliminate any major surprises as it pertains to your real estate as they go. So, because that's what I can, kind of help with and see. I'm not a doctor, so I don't have a lot of the other piece of it. And so that's that part. The next and final piece we're going to talk about is leveraging further, right? Getting a bigger loan. This is something that is an option for some, depending on your fixed income. It may not be, but leveraging further, a great option. And I wish they called it something else, because the reverse mortgage has gotten such a bad rap. But a reverse mortgage is actually a really good product in certain circumstances when you have a low balance or no balance and you plan to live for, as long as you want to live. The key with reverse mortgages is that you have to have a backup plan as well. If you do have to go into a senior living facility or a rehab facility for, extended period of time, and this residence no longer becomes your primary, you do have a timeline in order to unload that so that you can sell it and, reap the benefits of any principal that's left that you haven't, built up, as that's what happens in reverse mortgage. The principal goes up instead of down, but you're not paying as that happens. So you're just paying in your equity. So this is an option a lot of times in that low balance situation or when you're paid off. Now, this is not an option if you, have that high balance and you're doing that. For instance, if you have the high balance and you're going to need a ranch home, I suggest you, bite the bullet at some point and get into that home, as, interest rates and whatever are completely variable and you don't really know. So with leveraging, there's a lot of options. You could move out of this current house and, take some of the equity and get another mortgage somehow. You can do a lot of different things. The reverse mortgage is probably the cleanest, where you would sell your current home that you no longer need and then get into that. Then you are foregoing that interest rate. But at the end of the day, the interest rate doesn't, matter as long as you can afford the payment. And I have a reel actually right now that's going pretty viral about that. So the interest rate does matter, but it's more important that you are able to afford whatever payment you're going to when we're talking about leverage. Another option could be to rent this out, take some of the equity, and have some income as you go. So it's a real thing, and it's definitely going to impact everyone that's watching this lives at some point. And so having that plan is absolutely key. If you are interested in just booking a consultation, I'm not going to try and get you to sell your house. I'm not going to get you to try and buy a new house, but just so we can have a conversation, what's on the table and what does this look like? What are your options? And what are your options now? What are your options 6, 10, 20 years from now? That is what I do. I advise people. I help people build wealth through real estate. And this is a super important piece of my mission, is because once you have built wealth through real estate, whether it's large or small, we want to make sure that the exit strategy is at most benefit to you. And so as we kind of wrap this up, please reach out. Please share this with anybody that might, be facing this today, tomorrow, down the road. It doesn't matter. I just want to be a resource, always here to help. And I look forward to connecting with all of you here in the near future. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this with somebody, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.